Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us on Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap Show. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, and I created this show. We are in our sixth season to share resources that help women navigate career and life challenges and to know they're not alone. So each week, I invite a guest, a special guest, to co create a show to encourage women to become more confident, resilient, and brave in their careers and in their lives. So, if you're inspired by something you hear here today and you want more of the same, subscribe, comment, and share. And be sure to check out the show notes below for ways to connect with my guest and me. So, whether you're in a corporate role or you own a business, you likely have heard a lot about personal branding. We've even discussed it on this show a couple of times. And we're going to do it again because today there's a new book available that's different. And it's an honor to introduce you to my friend and former corporate colleague, Valerie Nifora. We've known each other for decades and reconnected over the last few years because we share something in common again. We love to write and we love to share with others what we've learned and what works for us. And Valerie is an expert on personal branding, so I invited her to share what she knows with you. Valerie Nifora is an award-winning best-selling fiction and nonfiction author who has spent most of her career as a marketing and communications leader for the Fortune 50, and that's where I met her. In addition, she's been a ghostwriter for corporate executives and has executed award-winning campaigns using her unique gift as an inspiring storyteller. Her new book, Unleash the Power of You, a step-by-step guide to creating and sustaining your own personal brand, hit #1 in 2 categories in March pre-sales and is now available worldwide. So let's talk with Valerie about what it means to create and sustain your personal brand.
Thank you,
Hi,
Maria. It's such an
Valerie.
honor to be here. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm really touched. And I'm going to share something because we're going to go off. This is just my nature. So everybody knows Maria is the person that inspired me to write. And I have a very vivid memory, goes back at least a decade, when I just called you out of the blue and I said, hello, I see you wrote a book. How did you do it? Why did you do it? And you were just so graceful. So thank you. Thank you, one, for that. So one, for inspiring me to pursue this dream that I had. So that's #1. And #2, for even when we were working together, being such a positive force and such a positive force for women and for other professionals, and being such a brilliant example. We're going to be talking about personal brand, and you are the embodiment of your
oh.
personal brand at all points in time. So thank you, Maria. It is an honor to be here.
Oh my goodness, Valerie. I just got goosies from head to toe.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
No, thank
that.
you.
It is it feels so good to have inspired you to do what was in your heart to do, to write, and you've done it so beautifully.
Thank
I
you.
I love the books that you have written, and this one especially is so pertinent to what we talk about on this show, and to help women who maybe are wondering, do I need a personal brand? What is a personal brand?
Yes.
And what is, so let's start with a dictionary moment. Okay.
Yes.
I'd like for you to define for us personal branding. And then I'd love for you to share with our audience your analogy of the tree.
The tree. Yes.
The
Excellent.
tree.
So um, a personal brand, here's what it's not. It's not your reputation. It's not your value statement. It's not your Rolodex, and we'll get to that. And what it is, however, is the mixture of 3 consecutive circles. So I want you to imagine 3 circles here. Okay, we've all seen those diagrams. The first one is your personality. The second one is your profession, and the last one is your passions. And when you take those 3 and you interlock them, what you find in the middle is your personal brand. And what I often say to people is, I want you to envision a tree. Close your eyes. Any tree is fine. I want you to pick a tree, envision a tree, and I want you to walk around that tree. Okay. Now I want you to imagine the sun in any position and the shadow that it might cast. And this is what I think people get wrong. They think that the personal brand is that shadow, right? It's that reputation. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room, that it's that thing. But here's the problem with that and that idea. Depending on what the sun is shining, that shadow is going to be long or short, right? So if you are in the political favor of your organization, your people, the universe that you support, you're going to have a great shadow. People are going to love you. You're fantastic. You're going to think your personal brand is that. But the minute it can turn on a dime, just like that sun, it can turn like a dime. And all of a sudden, what is it? Did your personal brand change? So I don't want you to think of the shadow. What I want you to think about is the tree. You are that tree. Your brand is that tree. The different aspects of you and your personality and your talents and your skills and the way that you think about the problems that you're solving or the way you interact with that universe, that is your personal brand. And that stays consistent. That tree is consistent. And all those wonderful, colorful things, those are your branches. Because here's the thing, and I'm really passionate about it. The universe came together to create you one time. You're not going to walk this planet again. And I don't believe the universe makes mistakes. So that's number 1. So you are this wonderful, fantastic tree. And you have the skills and capabilities and perceptions, the way you view the world, the way you're going to solve that problem, the way you're going to show up in that job is going to be 100% unique to you. And no one's going to be able to replicate that. So rule number 1 is you're special. And rule number 2 is be the tree. Don't get lost by the shadows. I'm hoping that helps people as we're starting to frame this conversation around a personal brand.
I love that. And you've set the context really, really well. And the image it conjures for me, the sun is shining some days and not others, right? So
Yes,
that shadow, if that is your personal brand, it can disappear.
correct. Yes.
And that's not your personal brand. Your personal brand never disappears once you are standing firmly in it.
Exactly. Exactly right. And that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So tell us why you wrote this wonderful book, Unleash the Power of You, a step-by-step guide to creating and sustaining your own personal brand. Why did you write it? And how is this book different from the others out there?
Okay, so I wrote it. It started off as 2 reasons. The first one was I took a job that I was not skilled in for 2 really amazing executives. I did the traditional male thing where I had maybe 2 things qualified for. I think statistically women make sure they check all the boxes before they apply for a job.
Yep.
But I didn't do that. I went for it anyway, and I got it. And then I was like, oh, I don't know anything about executive communications. I've never done this job before. And I was handed 2 amazing executives, really, really senior people. And I was now responsible for their personal brand. So I started to chart out what I did know. Well, I knew about storytelling and I knew about branding and I knew about communications and I had studied advertising and I was definitely a marketer. So how does that all fit together? And I started to create the framework of how I would create their personal brands that were authentic to each individual so that when they left their company or their organization, that brand came with them, right? Because like we're saying, you're a tree, right? You are all these aspects of things. And it was a wonderful learning. So the first part is I started drafting this theory, this ability about 10 years ago. Like, how was I going to do this? How is this going to work out? The second reason why I wrote the book, and the reason why it kind of really came into the universe, was I was sort of tired of listening to people talk poorly about others. I was sick and tired of listening to the shadow, right? Because it could be one week that this one particular individual was fantastic. It could have been another week that this other individual wasn't fantastic. And I had a personal experience where, I had this background, and one leader once said to me that I was the world's worst writer, and I should never tell anybody that I wrote anything ever. And that was just like, what? What are you talking about? Just because you don't like what I'm writing doesn't mean that I'm the world's worst writer. And it was sort of an interesting moment for me. It was like an inflection point where I had to take stock and say, well, what am I? What is my brand? What do I do? Who am I? What tree am I? And subsequently, this shadow is going to pass, and it did pass. Like that went, that's long gone, that discussion of whether or not I can tell a story or I can write. And that was the other impetus. I want people to know who they are, what they want, what their brand is. So then when you get these momentary blips in your career, or you come across that executive or that marketer or that colleague or that whatever that has this idea, that it's not you, and that you're able to continue on being yourself, because ultimately that will write out all the noise that we experience in life. And it was a grounding moment for me. And I wanted to take people through a step-by-step process to discover who you are, what people think you are, and how to mitigate the difference. So the difference in this book, because sometimes people, there's even an article on HBR, and it's like 2 pages. This is literally a step-by-step guide. There are exercises in this book. You're in it, Maria. Maria talks about her passions and bringing passions into your life. And the book is kind of divided into different sections. And this is the lesson, this is the exercise, and this is why it's important. And this is what you should have learned. So as you go through it, you understand who you are, what you are, and why you shouldn't be focusing on the shadow and focus more on the tree. So that's what makes the book different, really.
Yeah, I am honored to be. You were so kind to invite me to write about, to contribute to your chapter on passion, because I'm pretty passionate about that too. That is an integral part of our personal brands, of who we are, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the guy, whoever he was, that told you you can't write, you should never call yourself a writer. I love that you just said he was the shadow.
Yes. Yes.
You are not the shadow. He was the shadow.
That's
He's the
right.
one that left your space, and you maintained all of those beautiful branches
That's right.
and all of the leaves off the branches and whatever fruit it may bear, depending on what kind of tree you are, right?
And
And you get to pick what kind of tree you are, can't you?
you do. And I think the danger too is that I didn't give into the shadow. Like, I think a lot of people want to do that. You want to combat the shadow. And I just, it's so
Yeah.
tempting, right? It's so tempting to just,
Either
you
you believe them, right?
know?
When they have they don't know who you are, right?
That's right.
And you there's this risk of believing them. Are they right?
Mhm.
Putting self-doubt in our heads, right?
Absolutely.
And worse, in our hearts. Um, or you are steadfast in your brand, you know who you are, and you realize that their opinion of you is none of your business.
Yes. And you know what was really fantastic? I think it's Denzel Washington, and I'm just going to paraphrase this, but he said one time that sometimes your angels irritate their demons.
Ah,
So I think as long as you're coming from a good place and you mean no harm, if it's irritating other people, then that's them, right? And if you have a boss that is, giving you feedback like mine did, and that that's not
right.
accurate,
Right.
or appropriate, find a new boss. Find a new place. Find a place where
Yeah.
the sun is bright. You know, we spend
Yeah.
so many years in our career combating these silly shadows as they were, when we should just, forget it. Keep growing, let your leaves out, bear those fruit and just be you, and it will come. The world will come for you. But you have to know who you are and what you want first.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the work I do with clients every
Yes.
single day. And you're so right on about that. And the choice to, if you're in the shadows, right? If you
Mhm.
are surrounded by the shadows who are telling you who you are and what you should be doing next, don't believe them.
Right.
If it is not in alignment with who you know you are,
That's right.
don't believe them, trust yourself, and then figure out what's next, right? Stand
Yes.
firmly in your values. Let them be your guide to create the vision that you want to create, and then figure out how to position yourself to go make that happen.
And I think the part that people miss sometimes too, when we're thinking about personal brand, is that you have to be you at all points in time, like the
Mm.
best version of you. Um, and I'll tell this story. There was a person that I knew who went off on Twitter one time about returning his Nike sneakers and the cost and the price associated with returning these Nike sneakers, and which was unbecoming of this particular person, unbecoming of his job, unbecoming of his position, and not something he should be sharing publicly. Your social presence, your personal presence, and your professional presence in the world that we live in are one and the same.
Mhm.
And so you have to know who you are. So if you're walking around, for example, saying how compassionate you are, don't complain about the woman in Starbucks that has the wrong name on the coffee cup. I mean, that's beneath you. Don't be that person. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And what would happen if someone actually videotaped you being so belittling, or just being upset about something so minuscule? Don't do that. So the nice thing about when you go through the book and you create your I am statement and you have that moment where you want to react in a certain way, always go back and reflect. I am this, this, and this. And is this reaction appropriate or aligned with those three things that I said that I want to be? Those three things that I want my best self to show up in every day.
Right.
Granted, we
Yeah.
all have our failures and we screw
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
if you know who you are and what you stand for, then you need to stand for that at all points in time, which is why I say people need to build an authentic brand that is true to them. So they're not performing. It's not a performance. You are
Right.
these things at
Right.
all points in time.
Right. Yeah. You're not living up to other people's expectations. You're not compromising your values.
Yes,
You are standing firmly in the and showing up as yourself, as you. Um,
points. Yes,
always. And you're right. We are human. We all make mistakes. We all do things that, in retrospect, we wish we hadn't said or done.
did. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and your authentic brand then is to apologize,
Correct. Yes.
right?
Thank you for saying that, Maria.
It's
Yes,
to respond in kind, right, to your brand. If that's not who you are, if you are, non-judgmental most of the time and you catch yourself making a judgment, we all do it,
yes,
then
absolutely.
what is the appropriate response for you?
Absolutely. Agreed. If you need to apologize or you need to make good or retribution,
Yeah. Yeah.
reconciliation, whatever it is, not retribution, um, whatever it is that you need to do to make that situation whole, then you should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also a matter of not signing up for things that you're not going to. It's not part of what you are. I mean, if I give this example, like if you're not the person who is going to be concerned about what happened to everybody's pets, then don't pretend to be that person. Just
Right.
it's okay you're not that person. You can be your version of
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that you care the most about.
Yeah. All right. So a moment ago, you said that you're not your reputation, you're not your connections. I think you used the word Rolodex, which is a
Yes,
kind of a dated
it is dated.
concept. Some people may not even know what it is, but we know.
We do.
But it's not that, your contact list and your phone, right? So, what do you say to people who think that is who they are? That is their personal brand?
So I say this, a lot of people think that they'll reach out and so will help them. It's the people that they know, it's the people in power. But here's what happens. Those people sometimes retire. Sometimes those people get fired. Or sometimes they pass on, in the world that we live in, that was most certainly a reality. So your superpower, the thing that makes you special, cannot be a secret that's held within a small core of your special contact list. Everybody should know what makes you special. Everybody should know all those three pieces, your profession, your personality, your passions, how you deliver them. Your consistency is an element. So your value proposition, your reputation, it's a piece of that, right? And so it's really important that you are not the world's best kept secret, because I think a lot of people think that, like, oh, I'm fine because my insert level of authority here thinks I'm great. Wonderful. What happens if tomorrow that level of authority is gone and you are his or her best kept secret and you were doing all these wonderful things for him or her, and now they're not around and the rest of the universe had no idea of what you were doing. So that's what I say to people. I said, you have to think of it holistically and you need to reach outside of your organization. And I think it's really, really important, especially a lot of times we think personal branding for entrepreneurs only. I have my own business and therefore I need to be my brand. And we don't think about it in corporate America. But look, reality is there have been lots of layoffs in corporate America throughout the ebbs and flows of the economy. And if you're not perceived, if your brand isn't clear and known to a wide variety of people in an organization, then that's a detriment to you, right? Then you become a number. You're a cost statement. And I think that's the other thing that people need to be really, really careful about, is not just being a salary figure, a financial summation, that what you deliver and what makes you unique and important to an organization is really clear. And this all starts with going back to your personal brand.
I loved that example you gave. It hit home for me because I can think of two times in my early career in corporate when I hitched my wagon to an executive who thought I walked on water and I could do no wrong. I learned so much. I learned so much about uh, who, what I could do, all of the people I could connect with, the good I could do for the organization, all under his tutelage. And then he left, and I was his right arm in
Mhm.
that role, and somebody else walked into that role, and he wanted another right arm, and
Right.
it wasn't me, and it didn't matter how
Right.
much I had done for the previous executive. So I had two instances like that, and it was a rude awakening for me. And it took a little while it was like going through a divorce. It took
Yes.
a while for me to figure out what I should be doing next and how to not let it happen again. Happened to me twice. I didn't learn the first time.
It's an honest, natural response. I
Yeah.
mean, we want to feel safe. We want to feel protected. And so if this person who has authority at the moment has that authority and we feel that we're safe and protected and cared for within that universe, then why would we think otherwise? And you, me, lots of people have been in the situation where
Yeah.
the person who was in power, who promised you all those things, you go walk in on Monday morning, they're not there anymore, by choice or not choice, right? They're gone. And if you didn't spend enough time sharing your value outside, then you're at a considerable disadvantage. And it
Right.
happens time and time again. Yeah.
And what about the example of that person that you reported into kept you and your value the best kept secret
Secret.
and took
Right.
the credit for
All the
all
time.
that you did?
Yes.
And now they're gone and they believe that he or she did it
Little
all.
party. Yeah, that's happened a few
Yep.
times too.
Yep.
And it's always interesting because sometimes you're eliminated not even by choice. Like that party's still there, but you're not there.
Right.
And what I always found personally is when I wasn't there and things went on, then they start to see what they're missing because you're not
Right.
there,
Right.
right? That
Right.
that magic that you do quietly. So it's good and important to make sure that your brand is solid, that people know it, that the person you're reporting to knows what you're doing, that their bosses know what you're doing, outside of that organization knows, that everybody is clear, because it happens a lot. It happens more often, I think, than people realize. And you don't
And
appreciate the full scope of it until you're in that situation.
right. And we're not talking about bragging, are we?
Oh, no. Oh, here. Yes. It's not bragging if
Mm-mm.
it's based in fact. And
Right.
one of the things is women don't like to share. We're supposed to be humble. And there's
Yep.
a great way to do it. It all goes back to where it's coming from. Like, what's the core reason that I'm sharing it? And when you have a brand, the core reason why you're sharing it is because you can help insert in whatever capacity. You can help your business, you can help your colleagues, you can help whatever it is, others, your clients.
Mhm.
I think most brands are based in some sort of helping service nature. Like even the tree, it gives us oxygen. There's a value, right? It's doing something, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
and I think that's really important.
And
And listen,
all of us are in service
yes,
to something or someone or both.
right,
Whether we are working for someone else in a corporate environment, or working for someone else in any environment, or owning our own business, we are in service to others. And when we keep that service a secret, we are literally shooting ourselves in the foot down the line because something will happen uh, uh, out of your control, and you will have to feel like you have to defend yourself and all that you've done because you haven't taken the opportunity to communicate in a way, the service that you provide in a very matter of fact way.
absolutely. We don't do it. We should.
Yeah, women are often raised to be the behind the scenes. Behind, what is that saying? Behind every great man, there is a great woman. These days, behind every great woman is a team of other women,
Yes.
often, right? So let's use our team. Let's surround ourselves with the kind of people who get us, who believe in us and our brand and who we are, and they help shore us up and give us the courage and the support that we need to be who we are.
And to
Um,
that point, Maria, if you see another woman or even another man who's talking about their accomplishments, don't be the person that complains. Please don't be that person. This is, oh, they're bragging. Oh, I don't think
yeah,
that was right. Or I don't think that was humble enough. Keep your judgments to yourself and maybe learn something and share it. I think we're quick to condemn, people who are saying, hey, I did this, and it's not bragging. I'm not bragging. I think they're bragging. No, I'm not bragging. I did this. And if you're watching someone who's accomplished something and you're having that reaction, one, pause, figure out why you're having that reaction. And then I want you to stop and say, can I do that? And if you can't do that, then go find out how. Go ask that person. Because I will guarantee you what I have found is people who are sharing their accomplishments, they were doing it so that if you needed to learn, they'll teach you. Do you know how
Yeah.
many wonderful,
Yeah.
fantastic, incredible people that have been successful at things that I went, I don't know how to do that. Do you mind
Yeah.
showing me?
Yeah.
And if I was the person who was like, bragging, I would have learned nothing. I would have grown nowhere. So if you're
Right.
finding you're having that reaction, time out. Why? And it's probably an insecurity, and it's probably something you don't know how to
Or
do,
fear.
or
Mhm.
fear. So
Yeah.
get it together.
Yep.
Ask. And I
Yeah.
will tell you, 9 times out of 10, they'll be the most gracious human being you ever met.
Yeah. So, the very first thing to do is I love the power of the pause. I talk about it all the time. So, if you're feeling a little bit of that judgment, pause, get curious, and then congratulate them. So when you get curious and you say, "So will you share how you did that? I'd like to learn." And congratulations for making that happen. That it just opens your sphere of influence enormously when you do that.
100%. And people want to share what they learned. And
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote the book because I wanted
You're
to share
proud,
it, right?
right?
I want to tell people this is how
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
And this is how I did it for other people. And this is how you could do it for you. And I want people to stand up in themselves. You're fantastic.
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
yet to meet, with very rare exception, human beings that weren't remarkable human beings. I think the thing that I've uncovered more often than not is remarkable human beings who didn't believe they were remarkable. And that's just, to me, that is the ultimate human tragedy. You're all special. You're all remarkable. You're going to walk this planet once. The cosmos assembled you one time. If you think about it, we are
Yeah.
stardust. We're magic in our own way. So don't waste your time on this planet not appreciating just how valuable and incredible you are.
All right. So I want to ask you a question, Val, about the audience for your message. So you mentioned a moment ago, some people may think that it's just for entrepreneurs. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that one. Who is it for? Who really needs to hear your message?
Everybody. Every single human being, from the college graduate that's going to enter the workforce, right? To the corporate person who's been in their organization for years and maybe wants to do something else. I talk about the brand life cycle in my book. You may be starting out, you may be creating a new brand, and then your personal brand, and then you're noticing it's going to go down on a little bit of a decline. Maybe you're not really sure and you want to reinvent, you want to transition, which is what you do so brilliantly with people, and you have to help invigorize or whatever, that re-energize that brand so it builds again. So it's for everybody. And the important thing is the consistency. So you could be at any role in any organization and still should have a personal brand, because that's going to help you navigate up, out, around, however you want to go. And I
Right.
also think it's important, especially for people just starting their careers, to really think about who they want to be in the world. Social media is something that we didn't have to contend with when we were much younger because it didn't exist. But whatever you post out there, that's going to be there forever. So the thing that you're doing on Facebook on a Saturday night that you think nobody's going to know may be the exact same thing that gets pulled when you're a couple decades older and you're up for a promotion. So I really think that people need to think about the way that they present themselves in the world, maybe a lot younger than some of us did, and how that will follow you throughout your profession and as you shift professions.
Yeah. The other thing that occurs to me, Valerie, is that as we evolve and grow and experiment, do different things in our lives. We make different choices, and our brand evolves with us.
Yes, the
So
tree grows.
it's not like we are, just fresh out of college and we got to figure out who are we. It's who are we now, right? Who are you now that you are fresh out of college, entry level into your first position, whatever it is? Who are you now? And as you learn and grow and decide what is of value to you, what you care about, then those things become leaves on the tree.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And your integrity, your capacity to be honest, if you're innovative, if you're a creative problem solver, the core aspects of a tree, that's just going to grow and expand, and they'll
Right,
always be with you. Like one of the things
right.
that I've sort of done is I've broadened my brand, as it were. So yes, I am a corporate marketing communications leader, but I'm also a storyteller. And I've always been a storyteller. I've told some stories here, and that has stayed with me. So I'm an innovative, creative storyteller. And that core element goes into my marketing and communications planning
Yeah.
and execution. It goes into the books that I write. It's a consistent brand that I've always had with me, and that has stayed with me throughout my um almost 30-year career. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's always been there.
yeah. Yeah, and so, it just you are a good example of this, right? So for a long time, you held very close to your heart that desire to write, and you weren't a writer. You didn't see yourself as a writer. You did writing in your corporate career, but you didn't see yourself as a book writer. That's uh, how your personal brand evolved for you. So
Yes.
now that's another branch on your
Another
tree
brand,
that
another
grew
lead.
that wasn't there before.
Right.
It was a little nub.
Yep.
And
A little
then as you started to write books, it grew.
absolutely. And you got to try. And but
Yeah.
the storytelling part, that was always there. I always told stories.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever on a conference call going back those 20 years, always heard
Yeah.
me start with a
I
stupid
remember.
story. Yes, I always had a story. So now
Valerie always had stories.
so
Yeah.
now it's just a matter of where where those stories are coming out, to your point, to branches, to leaves, to poems, the poetry book, the historical romance, and this lovely
And
book
now
is
this. And
plenty of
now
stories.
this.
It's
Yeah.
filled with personal stories as you go through each one of the chapters, things that happened to me personally, and
Yeah.
then some of the stories that guest contributors like yourself also added, because I think it's through storytelling that we learn.
I believe that's true. I think that's how we learn the easiest, right?
Yes,
Because we can relate to what other people are thinking, feeling, going through. Yeah.
100%.
All right. So, Valerie, before we get to the last segment of our show, which we always end with, tips and key takeaways from my guest, is there some overarching thought that you would like to leave us with?
Yes. If you're not creating your personal brand, somebody else is creating it for you.
Oh,
And also, trending on social media is not a brand, it's a moment. I think that's the other thing that people get wrong. So yeah, if you're not in charge of your personal brand and you're not creating it, then somebody else is doing it for you.
that's powerful. Think about that, those of you who are listening. If you're not creating your own brand, someone else, and maybe many someone else's, are creating it for you. It's what they think you are, not who you know you are. Love that. Thank you so much for this. It's
Absolutely.
great conversation. I knew it would be. I've really enjoyed this, but I know you've got some key tips and takeaways that you can leave us with. It's why we call the show Tips for the Transition. So, what's your first one, Valerie?
So the first one, as I said, is if you're not creating your own personal brand, somebody else is creating it for you. The second one is know who you are and what you want, and absolutely lean into it. And the last one is just remember that your brand, if you don't want to think of it as a tree, just think of it in terms of, like I said, those three circles. Your brand, that piece in the middle, is your personality and all those wonderful aspects that make you you, your profession, however you've chosen to demonstrate that personality, and your passions. Please don't forget your passions, because it's what makes us interesting. You know, if you're a soccer coach, if you volunteer with the PTA, if you're an avid book reader, if you're a person who's on a road team, all those wonderful passions, it's okay to share them because they make the wonderful thing that is you, you, and create that authentic brand, that authentic you, that consistent you that shows up in the world. So don't be afraid of the consistent, beautiful you. So again, create your own brand because somebody else is going to do it. Know who you are and what you want so that when somebody else is doing it, you can combat that. And embrace your personality, your profession, and your passions, because that's what makes you truly human and wonderful.
And unique.
And unique.
And unique. Yeah, because I work with a lot of women, and I do a similar exercise with them about, who are you now that things have changed, and what do you value most, and what do you want next? And when we look deeply into those three aspects, the passions start to come through. They come out. They ooze out, and they can't be ignored because they are truly what make you your secret sauce special. And we got to get to the secret sauce every time.
Every time.
Every time. Valerie, I've loved this conversation. I really am so pleased and tickled that you came to sit with us today. And I know that people are going to want to chat with you, get your book, connect with you. So tell us, what is the one very best way to do that?
Just visit my website. It's valerienifora.com. Just come see me, fill out the contact button, and you can learn all about me and all the things that I'm passionate about. And I look forward to hearing from people. I'm excited to help however I can.
I'm excited for you. And in the show notes, you will find a link to Amazon to get Valerie's book. So it's a really easy click for you to get her book. I think it is for everyone, and I think everyone can learn something from this, even though you might think you're solid in your personal brand. Give it a fresh look. Valerie, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
And for everyone watching and listening, I want to thank you as well for being here. I really appreciate that you're a part of this community. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, comment, click a star. Let us know how you think and feel, what you think and how you feel about it. And as I said at the top of the show, I love creating and sharing resources for women. Plus, as a career and life coach, I work with women to help them navigate challenging times more quickly and gracefully. So if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective, reach out and let's talk. There is a private Facebook group called the Career Transition Roadmap. The link is in the show notes. We could continue the conversation there if you'd like. And then let's meet next week, same time, same place, right here on Wednesdays. Because you know what? I think it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.